Meet PitchDB, the ultimate platform for speakers looking to make their mark on podcasts, conferences, and media outlets. PitchDB provides access to over 3 million platforms, ensuring you find the perfect avenue for your message. With AI integrations, your bios and pitches are tailored uniquely to each opportunity, giving you the edge you need. Join now at pitchdb.com.
Welcome to Your Brand Amplified, the podcast where we interview marketers, publicists, and brands to learn their stories, what makes them tick, and tips and tricks that make a difference. I have to say that my next guest, Calvin Correli, emanates a brightness, not only on LinkedIn and on his website, but also his background. For anybody who's not watching, you should absolutely be watching this episode so you can see the very colorful, amazing background Calvin has. Thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, thinking I should probably close the window here because it's getting a little noisy.
Yeah, so I want to unravel your journey. You have created a tool that helps people have an all-in-one solution, which I know everybody's overwhelmed these days by what tools do we use? What direction do we go in? What's the best thing on the market? Do we switch? But beyond that, though, you have this whole other journey. And I love the way that you bill yourself as a future special advisor. I almost said spiritual advisor, but that too, to the President of the United States.
Yes, please. Yes, actually.
So where do you want to start? There's so much to unravel here. What got you, because I know your spiritual journey came a little bit later, right? So when you were growing up, what did you want to do? Did you go through this journey wanting to be a big business person and making lots of money? What was that like?
Yeah, well, I always wanted to have an impact. I always saw myself as having an impact in some way. At some point as a kid, I was fantasizing about, like, I had this vision for something like chemical industries, something, I forget what it was, but something that would clean environmental or whatever. And like, this is like early on as like a 7-year-old kid. I didn't know anything about, about anything, but that was just, I've always had those visions. Like as a kid, the whole POTUS thing, president, special advisor. I love that you said spiritual advisor. That makes a lot of sense. To the president, that kind of started as a kid as well, not US, but my parents would tell me about the laws and how things work, like tax codes and like whatever. Like, I think when I was a teenager, there was also like immigration policy and things like that in Denmark, right? So my mind just started to think about like systems, like how do we design a system to achieve the outcome that we actually want? What is it we want? We have to talk about that, right? And so later that became like this dream of creating my own country. And then eventually I realized that creating your own country is kind of difficult. You need to find a piece of land somewhere. And there are things you can do. You can actually like go to some third world countries, and you can just like rent some of their land and you can just make your own laws within that area if you wanted to. So, like free ports do that and things of that nature. But then I was like, maybe it's not a new country. Maybe it's more influencing my sort of adopted country of America.
So the journey started in Denmark?
Yeah. Born and raised in Denmark, lived half of my life there. Like I'm just turned 50. And when I was 25, I moved to New York. And then I was back for some years as well. So, yeah. What
propelled the move to New York?
Like on paper, it was that I was studying computer science and I wanted to study a year abroad. And, if you're going to study abroad and you're into computers and software, you don't go to France or Germany or Spain, right? You go to the US. That's where it happens. And then I came here and I realized it does make sense to pay $30,000 in tuition when I can get a job and make $100,000 a year. So I did that instead. But it started much earlier because both my parents were programmers and they taught me how to code. And so through computers, I got very oriented towards the US from a young age. And my dad brought me and my brother here when I was 11 and 12, like 2 years in a row for a week vacation, just my dad and my brother. And I just loved this country. Like I was drawn to the US and had been for a long time.
So Simplero makes a lot of sense with that background. You already had this technical background of trying to figure out solutions using technology. Sure. I love that.
Yeah.
Because you've also written books. You had a book called Show Up and Serve. And then your next book is You Are the Product, which fantastic name. because I love talking about branding and personal branding, but also from the inside out and on a more spiritual way than just commercialization, right? So talk about that. Like, you came here, you decided to work, you got on this path, but now you have your own company. You went on a spiritual journey. You're writing books that clearly are not just about networking, computer analysis and technical things that we're not all good at, like yourself. So how does that fit into the puzzle that makes Calvin?
Well, we have two hemispheres, right? It's the left brain and the right brain, and they go together. There's always that. I like to think of it as systems and spirituality. They go hand in hand, and we need both. I was a very quote unquote spiritual kid in the sense that I had this intuitive sense of people and like, oh, this person is doing that because what's really happening inside of them is this, like they're scared of this or heard about this, whatever. And then later in life as a teenager, I kind of shut that side of myself down and made it wrong. And I felt like it wasn't like, I didn't value it. So was really also very emotionally broken. I was, grew up in a fairly dysfunctional family. Like, feelings was not something that anybody would admit to having and that we dealt with. And a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of like suppressed feelings and all that stuff. So, closed down that entire side of myself until I think it was like around 30 is when that started to come back for me. And then in the beginning, I was very skeptical of anything quote unquote spiritual. It sounded like and hokey, and I didn't know, like, give me something concrete. I was very skeptical even of going into mindset or coaching or things like that, because I had this belief that if you needed help in that department, it meant you'd already failed and you might as well go I was really like, I had a self-worth that was like so low that it was, not in a good place. But thankfully, got some help and got into first coaching and psychotherapy and then body therapy, which has been incredible for me because like when you go through the body, you kind of bypass the whole mind side of things where we can lie to ourselves a lot. And then worked with a spiritual teacher who was kind of out of the Eckhart Tolle tradition friends with Eckhart. So that was how I got into it. I realized, this is like, it resonated with something very deeply in me. And I found now that I have a real gift for kind of peeling away the layers of people. It's a big part of what I do. It's like all business problems are really personal problems that show up. And so when you pull at a business problem, like it reveals a deeper, problem inside of us.
Yeah.
And then when you unravel that one, there's like all this space and freedom and love that opens up, which is amazing.
I feel very seen at this moment in time by you saying that, because I have been through this process. I think as children, we are much more open, right? We don't have these preconceived notions. And so we're much more spiritual and open to seeing things in different ways and feeling things and learning. And then as we grow up, it kind of gets beaten out of us a little bit in many ways. And then you can discover it again. And I think that's such a wonderful place that you live in now, to have been on this journey of self-discovery, been able to figure out what works for you. And what you just said, oh my gosh, because last year I was feeling that, the stress of work and getting sick a lot and having to look at my body, this personal stuff is actually manifesting what's going on with how I'm feeling about this project or that project or this thing I'm working on. And I need to maybe step back, heal myself, take time that I need to look inside. And then I can go forward and figure out what my purpose and vision really is, right? Like, what is going to best serve me? What am I most passionate about? But also, how can I be of most service, which goes to your book, Show Up and Serve. So did you go through all of this process of self-discovery before you wrote your book?
Well, it's not like it stopped because I wrote that.
Of course, it's continuous, but
so I mean that's the thing is like I want to go back and do a second edition of that book because the premise is so strong, but I feel like I've grown so much since then.
Oh.
But it's something that I've noticed a lot. There are a lot of people who their approach is like, how can I make some money? I was at dinner the other night with someone he's in real estate and he's feeling really squeezed in the real estate market due to regulations and things like that. And like these like tenant laws. So like people can live without paying rent for like 2 years and you can't evict them, but you still have to pay your mortgage and all your expenses and all that stuff, right? So he wasn't happy about that. And he was like, well, so then like maybe some foreign exchange, currency exchange, maybe some crypto, maybe these different things. And he ended up losing a lot of money on those things because it was, bless his heart. Like I have compassion for him because I've been there and so many people are there, but is that like, what is it going to be? Is it going to be the, funnels or like crypto or like whatever? Like, how do I make money? And I think it's the wrong question, right? The right question is, what am I here to do? Like, who am I here to serve? Like, we're all here to make life better for other people, to ease their burden in some way. And to me, that's a much more productive place to start. Is what I noticed for myself, because I used to do this. I was like, I did the intranet for Greenpeace International way back in the day. And then I'd done a CMS for someone else, like a content management system. And then a friend came and said, we should do like collaborative CMS. So like we take the collaboration from the internet and then the CMS portion, we do that. And I'm like, let's go, let's do it. And I was like this person had a background at Yahoo and knew all these like fancy, like she was early at Yahoo. And I was like, we're going to sell this company for 100 million, like in 3 years. Like it's going to be so great. Right. And then like it didn't, and turn out that it was really hard and we didn't work well together and like all that stuff. And then when it got hard, what was my investment in staying with it? Like very low, right? And that's what I noticed is like, oh, right. I read this article from the founder of Y Combinator that said, no startup ever died mid-keystroke. No startup ever died mid-keystroke, meaning if you're still typing away at the keyboard, the startup isn't dead. So like, what are the things that you would pursue even when it's hard?
Yes.
That you want to stay with? And let's do that. Like, let's do the thing that really fills you up, that's really meaningful to you, and that's a good business, because then you're going to stick with it.
And at that point, again, I'm just like, okay, keep on talking, keep on preaching, because I've recently made a transition and you think, oh, okay, just like you, right? Everything's going to happen immediately. And then I am reminded of the lesson. No, it's going to take a little longer than you think. It's always going to take a little longer than you think, but you must stay the path.
Longer sometimes.
Yeah. Because if you don't stay the path and you get distracted by these other shiny objects over here, you're never going to know how successful you could be in that venture. And that's something that is definitely come up for me a lot lately. And the other thing was just when I teach branding to students or when I do a brand workshop for a corporate client, I always think about from that perspective of who are you on the inside? What is your purpose that drives what you do like outside of work? Because guess what? You should bring that same thing inside of work. And it sounds like we are very much aligned on that, because you have to show up as your whole person, and that will help you make better decisions about who you want to work with, how you want to approach things, no matter what you're doing in life.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially if you're working fairly closely with people. If you present a facade, if you're someone else, you attract people who want that versus who want who you really are. So it's going to be easier to work with them. Remember back in the day, I read a book called A New Brand World. Like this is like 20 years ago or something. And they said exactly that like branding is really about exposing the soul of the company. And I think they told a story of how they had been hired by Microsoft to work on branding for them, and they had to abandon and quit because there was no soul there. So like, sorry guys, we can't help you.
Yeah, that's they're still making a lot of money.
Yeah. And Tony Hsieh at Zappos had the insight of that, like your culture ultimately becomes your brand. You can't hide the reality of who you are as a company. So like invest in that culture, and that becomes what people see.
Exactly. Why do you think people still don't listen to that? We all have this gut that tells us, and so many times I've done it, I've certainly ignored that gut feeling and seen and gone down a path, and I'm like, oh, this is what I need to learn. But if I'd listened to myself, I wouldn't have had to learn it that way.
Well, for the brand specifically, I think it's shame more than anything. Shame. We feel that we're not good enough. We're not enough as we are. We have to be something else to be loved, to be liked.
Yeah.
And so we put on a facade. That's a persona. That's what we do in our personal life as well, in our intimate life. We're like, oh, And we learn that as kids, as 1-year-olds. We learn, oh, when I do this, mom or dad says, no, 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 stop, right? And when I do this, I get love. And so most of us, if we had parents who said no and then picked us up and gave us love and comfort in that moment, so brought us back from this scary to love and union again, that wouldn't happen. But for most of us, they don't do that. And so the split happens inside that says it's not the behavior, it's me that's wrong. And I have to be a certain way, and I have to disown these parts of me that others can't see.
Yeah. I think that's just such an interesting concept, because I think we don't spend enough time living in the silence and really getting deep with ourselves and looking internally and thinking about the things. And it sounds like you did a lot of work. I mean, obviously we talked, it's a continuous journey, but you went through this process with yourself. What does your world of work look like on the other side? How has that shifted and changed?
Well, I mean, a lot easier and more fun and simpler too. Like, I'm obsessed with simple. That's why I named the company Simplero. Right? The shame and the fear and the confusion and the limiting beliefs create complexity and complication, because we're not sure as we hold on to too many things, or we make it too complicated, or we put on these personas or facades, and all that just makes everything more complicated. So it gets to be a lot funner and a lot simpler, and a lot, like, I love the culture that we have on the team of, like, we're all invested in coaching and growth and vulnerability and getting to know each other. And, you know, I do team training, and people share really vulnerable. Obviously, engineers sometimes less so than others. And just, you know, I honestly think, like, you don't get to be a really good engineer if you're not emotionally broken.
Wow.
That's like, why did I spend so many hours in front of the computer? Because I was really emotionally broken, and I was terrified of humans because they would say things and it would make me feel really awkward. You know,
I don't even know where to go with that statement. I feel like we could have a whole conversation about that. But I'm really interested in you. So we show there. Yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, there's no shame in that, right? There's like, we all have our stuff. Like, one of the things that I think we often make as entrepreneurs and as humans, and I do it too, is comparing, right? Like, oh, this person is further along than me, or is moving faster, or whatever. Like, like, it just doesn't serve us, because we're all so different and we're here to do different things. And if we could just realize that at the end of the day, we don't get to take any of the shit with us anyway. Like, nobody's really going to remember, right? We all have that, like, some celebrity dies and then everybody's like, oh, for like a day. And then the next day they all move the fuck on, right? Like, nobody's going to care at the end of the day. And the only thing we can really take with us is, I don't know what we can take with us, if anything, but I would say like, who we become in the process. That's the journey.
Yeah.
Do we become more of who we are?
We become more of who we are, and we leave people with that essence of remembering who we truly were, hopefully, right? And that we made time for them, and that we were intentional with our actions and our words. Yeah, absolutely.
That we made their lives better. Yeah.
And so talk about Simplero and how, so you had this concept, you're going to put everything together. Obviously, you've been on this journey for a while with Simplero, and I'd love to hear how it's different from other platforms, because I see it, I think, okay, so that's similar to like Kajabi or Go High Level or any other, number of platforms. Is that kind of a yes, kind of a no?
Yeah, no, it's in that ballpark for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the thing that makes us different is we're very focused on that coaching, mentor, course, but like that space of like you step into actually lead or guide another group of people, right? So we're heavy on that course content community, like together side, together with the whole business engine, if you will, right? So like High Level, last I checked, wasn't very strong in that course community kind of space, right? And Kajabi has it, like they have the course content over here and then the community over here, and they're literally separate apps and that kind of stuff. So for us, it's very important to have that stuff together and have it integrated with everything else, so you can do all the automations around it. Like you can automate all of these things inside of your space and your community there. So that's like one thing. And like High level is definitely way more of the like the marketing machine, right? They're also big on like chiropractors and auto body shops, so whatever, like local businesses, right? That's not our game. Our game is the coaches, the educators, the trainers, the mentors. And then the other thing is like Outlook is, I mean, just the kinds of things that I talk about. For me, like there's being an entrepreneur is a spiritual journey, especially being a coach is a spiritual journey in the sense that like you have to grow in the process of doing this. It's not like a job as a cashier or something like that. Like it really requires that you grow and that your growth is the limit to your business. That's something that we know and we talk about, we take very seriously. And because we're a somewhat smaller company and because of me and just the way I am, I'm fueled by intimacy, like creating moments of intimacy and connection with people. So you kind of get that feel from the company. So that's our vibe.
Yeah. How do you find your people? Like, how have you been able to find the right people to be clients? Because not everybody obviously sounds like they'd be the ideal client for Simplero either.
Yeah. Well, it's been word of mouth. It really has. We do have a little bit of an affiliate program that we haven't managed for years. So we're grateful for the people who are sending us business and we, pay them in return for that. But mostly word of mouth. We've never really ran ads. We've done a little bit of testing, but nothing that we liked or wanted to continue doing. Yeah. A lot of word of mouth.
Your word of mouth is gold. So that's fantastic. But I'm interested also to hear how have your different company, like how is this different from other businesses that you've had? Because you've had so many different lives, if you want to say.
Previously, mostly it's been consulting businesses and network. And network was how I got started here as well. I found my first customers through my network in Denmark. And then when I moved to the US, I found a Facebook group off of a paid coaching program where I hung out in the Facebook group and I just answered people's questions. And then I was like, oh, by the way, I had this thing if you're interested. And then I got my first, members there. And then it's grown from there. Honestly, I'm like affiliates and word of mouth is by far what's worked the best for me. And yeah, that's my go-to.
Well, do you still have the vision of selling the company for hundreds of millions of dollars someday, or has that shifted as well as your perspective has shifted?
Yeah, I don't have that goal. I would love to create something that I want to continue operating and being a part of. Obviously, we're all going to pass at some point. Like there's, some time till that happens. So an exit is not really in the cards for me right now.
What is something that you learned on your journey in being a consultant, a practitioner of different businesses that you think is besides spirituality and really bringing your whole self to your business practices? What is something you would recommend that people do, whether they're new entrepreneurs or 5 or 10 years into their journey that they probably forgot, right? Because they start getting so into the systems and processes and there's that one thing that they really need to look back and level set.
It's always the fundamentals that we miss, right? That we forget. We get lost in the weeds of what we're doing. So like a simple little thing, like quote unquote, mystery shopping your own business, just like look at your presence, look at your customer journey as an outsider, as a new person. Like I come here for the first time, like, what am I looking at? Do I understand what the hell it is? Like sit down with a stranger, like one of your friends who doesn't really know what the hell you're doing, and sit down and look at it and like walk through the whole journey with them. And you're going to spot so many things that you're like, oh my God, that's stupid. That's dumb. And we all do that, right? We all, as customers of other people's businesses, we all experience this and we're like, oh, that's like a little odd, a little weird. Like that's just a lost opportunity. A simple, like a dumb example, but like I live in a building here in New York City with an elevator, 40 stories, and the buttons to the elevator we have 6 elevators or 5 elevators, and the buttons to call the elevator are in the middle of the elevator bank.
Oh,
like why not put them like at where you enter the elevator area?
Right.
Just like small things like that. But usually you can, if you look with those eyes of like, how do I optimize this for someone new coming in to just build a relationship with me and become a client and ascend into my different offers, then that you're going to find some really low hanging fruit there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we get so into the minutia, like you said, but also we're entrepreneurs because we get really excited about the next idea that we have. And so we can tend to get really busy and just see where things go. Sometimes, unless you're the entrepreneur, you might be more like a planner, because I think the people who come from the world of finance or technical aspects sometimes have a little more of those skills than me, for instance, right? And then you get into it and then you're like, oh, but I missed, like you said, I missed this step and this step that would have been really foundational and would have set me up so much better and easier, because now I have to go and correct this or, reiterate and pivot.
Yeah. I've had many experiences of hiring people that I thought were really senior and experienced in their job, and they come in and it kind of feels like they're just throwing spaghetti against the wall. And I'm like, wait, like there's a lack of first principles thinking of just like, okay, what's the problem we're trying to solve? How do we know it's a problem? Like, what are the things we can do to try to solve? Like those basic things of just being really clear on the problem that you're trying to solve, whether it's in your marketing or like, what are you as a company trying to solve? Or whenever you have a meeting on the team or you sit down to do some work on it, like what's the actual problem that I'm trying to solve? Really helpful to get clear on that. Most people skip that. And it's so common, right? We all do it.
Yeah. Since you mostly work with coaches, people who are really wanting to get into the teaching space, which, by the way, I love. I work with a former Zen monk on mindset and inner work and outer work. Right now, I work with another woman. I just did over the whole weekend, there was a small group of us that would meet on Zoom to set up our personal financial systems more accurately and make sure we were goal setting and really seeing where everything was, so that would also help our businesses. I work with somebody else who's teaching me, like, yes, everybody knows, not everybody, but if you're in the digital space, you probably know how to do ads, but I'm learning like his technique and how he has had success so I really believe so much in the value of continuing to learn. So I really want to know from you, when you have entrepreneurs, coaches come to use your system, or just what the experiences are that you've had in working with them in your other businesses, what are some of the mistakes that you see them making and things that you think, again, are easy to correct? I mean, we just talked about a couple, but.
Yeah, usually I find that most people, we all have the problem of we can't read the label from inside the bottle. Right? So having someone else help you see what you can't see and clarify what you need to clarify. Like, we all have the problem of trying to explain what we do because it's so obvious to us, but to someone who's new, like, what is it really? And like, we tend to get in the weeds. So like taking the time and getting the help to get clear on those things. So you like, no, this is what I do, right? That like, this is who I am. This is what I do. And being willing to even feel like, oh, you're dumbing it down a little bit. Like, it's a little too simplistic here, but we got to get it across to people, right? Then we can always add the nuance later.
Yeah.
So that's something that I see a lot of people do. And then honestly, like, commitment, I think it's easy to fall into the idea that, oh, this is going to be so easy to build a business like this, right? It's going to be so easy. I'm just going to slap up a website and people are going to come running to me because it's like what I do is the most incredible thing since sliced bread. And it just takes work. It takes commitment. Like, it's absolutely doable, but it takes that commitment to the long haul because you're going to run into challenges. And a lot of those challenges are going to be like, you in here, right? So it's being committed to that side of the journey as well. Like, how do I need to grow here in order to get where I want to go to so that I can serve other people? The last thing is like too much focus on self and not enough focus on other people and how to serve them, because I feel like that's the unlock of a lot of these things.
100%. Now, when somebody comes to the Simplero website, what will they see?
Right now, our website is way overdue for a refresh. So I'm working on that right now. But they're going to see like a little corporate looking kind of blue hero section on the website. So that we're going to replace real soon now. And a photo of I think there's a carousel of me and then some clients. And then, an invitation to start a trial or watch a demo. Yeah.
Somebody doesn't have a list yet, but they want to work in a system that's going to be simplified. Is this still a good place to start?
100%. Yeah. It's the best place to start because you can really grow with it. People are like going all the way from nothing, from starting to, $50, $60 million a year on this platform. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's incredible. And I can tell that you have a high level of probably engagement with your customers, your clients as well, because you want to make sure that they succeed. That's why you created this platform.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
What is something that you wish you could go back and tell yourself when you were deciding to move to the United States and start this journey?
Believe in yourself and your vision and triple down on the inner growth side of things. It's really fascinating because my big thing has been like, yeah, I feel this. And then I would wobble when things didn't quite work out. I'm like, oh, probably wrong. I probably need this other thing that I don't really want. So I have a love-hate relationship with the internet marketing community, like the online marketing people. I got into that world. I was a tech bro programmer, right? And we saw that it's just like early 2000s, mid 2000s. We looked at that like making money online, and you could always tell them from a mile away because that has very specific like aesthetic and the fonts and the white background and the text and the like yellow highlight and red arrows and all that stuff. And it was like, whenever I see something like that, I'd be like, ugh. And then in 2008, I bought one of those things, $2,000 online marketing course, because I was like, I could see, I wanted to share what I learned on my inner growth journey with other entrepreneurs. I could see it was valuable to them, and I didn't know how to do that, like seminars or workshops or what. I didn't know anything about any of that stuff. And so I found this, and it was a great course, and it was well worth the money. And it started me on that line of work. I launched my first course, and people loved it, and I was able to quit my programming for money, hire like hourly thing completely, and get into this business. So awesome. But there's also, I found that there are a lot of people in that world that had lower standards than I have when it comes to integrity, when it comes to saying what's true, and when it comes to doing what you said you would do. And there's a bit of a culture there. And so sometimes I would get like sucked back into that world. Like I kind of left that world entirely in 2010 because I was like, all right, like they're all lying bastards. I'm going to just focus on product and customer service because those are the two things that are closest to my heart, and let marketing take care of itself. And it did, like grew through word of mouth. It was awesome. It was great. And then, I was like, all right, now I want a lever that I can pull, right? I want something that I can do to grow the company, and kind of got sucked into that marketing world again and online marketing world. And I'm like, there's valuable stuff for sure, but there's like an ethos of something that's always been grating to me. And so really trusting my instincts about what I believe in, that's the lesson that I've hit over and over again. Yeah. And then on the inner growth side, I kept feeling like, well, I've done all the work now. I've read The Big Leap 3 times, and I've worked personally with Gay Hendricks, and I've done all the body there. I've done all these things, and like I know everything there is to know now. Like I'm done. I'm complete. Like, and I wouldn't like stop, right? I would keep going, but I had this like air of superiority about myself that like I know better than like because I've done. And I mean, there was tons more for me to peel off and learn and grow inside of me, like false beliefs and woundings and hurts and stuff keeps coming up, and it'll probably continue like that forever. And like every time I do one of those things and I come out the other side, I'm like, there's no fucking way that I could have ever achieved what I was trying to achieve without unlocking this piece. Yeah. And so, it's always been worth it.
Nice. Love that. If people want to learn more about you, learn more about Simplero, what is the best place for them to go? Is it the website? Is it your website or LinkedIn?
I think the best place is just my Instagram. That's kind of the funnest place to stay in touch. So just my name, Calvin Correli on Instagram, and then DM me that you found me here on the Brand Amplified podcast and say hi. And then if you're in the coaching business, DM me the keyword 10K, and I'll send this video that I did the other day for just the simple framework to get to a consistent $10,000 a month as a coach.
Yeah. Amazing. Any last thoughts, Calvin? One word of wisdom. And then I always also ask if you have a favorite quote, mantra, something that's resonating with you either through your life or today.
Mm-hmm. So parting words is remember to have both the left brain and the right brain, the masculine and the feminine energies together. That's where the magic lies. Most of us are stronger in one, and then when we tend to go more into whatever the side it is that we're strongest in, instead of realizing that I actually need to go into the other to build that business. Especially in business, it's so crucial to have those elements working together. And favorite quote, something that came up when you were talking was spirituality done right is just reality.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Is we forget that what we think of as reality is the freaking illusion, right? And we think that spirituality is this woo-woo that I don't know if I can trust it, if it's real, but it's like, it's real. Like energy is all that is.
Yeah.
We see it as like these hard objects, but really they're just energy with some inertia that causes them to appear that way. We perceive time as this like linear progression, but time doesn't exist. Like time is not a reality of life. It's an illusion of our mind. And it's so freaking hard to wrap our heads around. But just remember that shit is the real world.
Yeah.
As far as we know today, anyway.
Oh, what a fun conversation. A little esoteric, a little woo-woo, a lot business, a lot mindset. So Calvin Correli, thank you so much. And anybody who goes onto his Instagram, you will see a very vibrant, fun photo. I want to know where that photo was. Was it an inspiration? Was that an experience you had? Was it just came up with this cool background?
It was actually, yeah. So I took a screenshot of myself after doing a photo of myself after doing a workout. So I was like really pumped up. And then my sort of social media personal brand guy that I had at the time, he put together that like background. So that's his doing. Jay for the win. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, definitely for the win. Well, thank you so much for being on Your Brand Amplified today. I've really appreciated your time. And I know that the audience has as well. I think as I've gone past, 300 and something episodes, the conversations are getting really deep. We're definitely talking a lot about mindset and inner work and how important that is to being an entrepreneur, being a successful business owner, whether you're in the world of corporate looking to make a pivot or whether you are successful, but you're having a crisis of consciousness or whatever that case might be. So I appreciate your wisdom today.
Thank you. My pleasure. It was really fun to be with you.
Yeah. And thank you to everybody who's watching or listening to this episode. I'll be back again with another amazing guest very soon. Want more? Check out amplifywithannika.com or follow me on socials at amplifywithannika.